turnout yesterday, great turnout today. I mean, you know, last few nights this place has been packed, and we've got all kinds of people coming up and watching and coming into the octagon. Today, I think we had a 6-month-old baby up there with the championship belt on, and so we're starting to really interact with the great fan base that we have here, and it's a great venue for that.
Still, it's kind of an education process, I guess. It's kind of a new sport, but do you feel like the reception, like people are kind of catching on?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, this is a great venue for it. Around New Year's, there's so many people that are either on holiday or coming down here for shopping or eating, and so we have a chance to expose ourselves to a whole bunch of new fans and all the great aspects of the sport and our fighters, etc. As well as, of course, a lot of the core fans have come down and had a chance to interact with the octagon and the fighters and take some photos and see for themselves what it's all about.
Fantastic, the amount of nations that are represented on the card. Do you think that's an indication of how strong the scene is here in Asia?
Yes, I do. I mean, this is really a global card. I think it shows the global nature of the UFC. I believe we have 6 continents represented in this event, if you count the Pacific Islands as kind of being their own continent, a little creative there. But so we've really got a great event, and there's a lot of firsts with this event. It's the first in Southeast Asia, of course, the first in Singapore. It's the first that kicks off our strategic partnership with the Sands Group, and it's the first of an Asia series of fights that we believe is going to create all kinds of new opportunities for fans to see our sport in person in Asia, for fighters from Asia to compete in the UFC that was not possible before, so we're building local heroes through this series as well.
First of the UFC Fight Pass also. Can you talk about what that means to the future of the company?
That's right. The Fight Pass is a groundbreaking new digital subscription service that we're launching with this January 4th UFC Fight Night Singapore being the very first event on that service. That's initially launching in US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, but eventually it'll roll out around the world. It's an all-access look for our fans to experience everything about the UFC through this digital service. We're going to have exclusive events like the Singapore event available on that. We're going to have all of our archives, a tremendous amount of feature content, and again, an all-access pass to the UFC through the UFC Fight Pass.
Currently, you get the UFC pay-per-views on sort of cable TV here. Do you plan to move that to the Fight Pass?
No, those will generally stay. I mean, it'll take a while, I think, for the Fight Pass to be rolled out all over the world, first of all. So we will continue to be available to generally the general viewing audience, at least everybody who has pay TV out here in Asia for some time.
And how many times do you expect to be back in Singapore? Do you think you'll come back again in 2014?
Quite possibly. If we do, it'll be at the very end of 2014, but we do plan to come back to Singapore on roughly an annual basis. We think this is a great hub for our sport. It's a great hub in general for whether it's economics or tourism, and we've moved our office here, so this is so it makes sense to come back at least once a year, and especially based on the turnout here. We're just about sold out. I think there's a couple of hundred or tens of tickets left, and certainly whether it's today or tomorrow we'll be completely sold out. So the reception has been outstanding so far.
You've been teasing UFC Philippines for a while, but it hasn't happened yet. When is that going to happen?
We hope that this is going to happen second quarter, late second quarter of 2014. We're having some very good discussions there. They've got a great new venue there at the Mall of Asia Arena. And of course, a tremendous fan base. Philippines is probably one of our largest followings per capita in all of Asia for the UFC. They've had it on the air there for many years. We have a great broadcast partner there. So we'd love to come in 2014, but right now we're just ironing out those details and making sure we can, seeing if we can make that happen.
You've been running Tough China. You have a couple of other international Tough TUF programs. What about Southeast Asia? Will there be a Tough Southeast Asia?
Great question. It's very much on our list, our to-do list. We think there's an excellent opportunity to create an Ultimate Fighter Southeast Asia series. It'd be a little different because we'd have to figure out the languages. I mean, how do we have a guy from Thailand talking somebody from Indonesia or even Vietnam or wherever we can get the fighters from, but we'll figure that out, and we think there's a tremendous opportunity there for a great show. Thank you.
You mentioned there were a lot of, mentioned first that a lot of first UFC, like 15 or 20 fighters are moving around.
Again, what a great way to start the new year than a brand new set of fighters entering the UFC. And as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of great fighters that have been out there plying their trades, getting ready for their debut, the chance that they have to enter the UFC. And with just 30 fights a year, we haven't had, frankly, spots for all of them. And so we've kind of bided our time and waited for the right moment to launch this Asia series. And now with this series, we're creating a lot of great opportunities for these fighters to finally come in. And that's what you're seeing here on the first one of the year. And we'll gradually be adding new fighters to our roster from Asia, again, through the series and the opportunity that gives them. So it's not only an opportunity for fans across Asia to come to our fights, see us in person, watch our fights in prime time, Saturday night, Asia time, which couldn't do that before. I had to watch on Sunday mornings for most of our fights, of course. And again, so there's a lot of firsts. This is kicking off kind of a new era of our development around the world, and certainly here in Asia.
One such fighter is Singapore.
That's right.
What do you make of it?
Great guy, first of all, and we had the opportunity to first meet him through our Ultimate Fighter China tryouts, because we opened up Tough China to all people of Chinese descent if they could speak Mandarin. So Royston tried out. We were actually quite impressed with his skills then, to the point where, although he didn't make the first roster of Ultimate Fighter China, we did bring him up to Shenyang, where we produced that show in Liaoning province, as an alternate. And through that experience, we got to know him better. There was more opportunities to see his skills, and to the point where we decided, hey, this guy really has the goods to become our first Singaporean in the UFC. So we're delighted to have him in this show.
Your movement down into Southeast Asia with your relocation of your office from China to Singapore, does that signal more of an expansion into Southeast Asia via possible Singapore, possible Philippine show, and your already announced media partnership with Indonesia?
Sure, it certainly helps. We came to Singapore primarily because it's a great place to do business, to have logistically your business hub for Asia Pacific. It certainly helps also give us a much better platform to push into Southeast Asia. As you know, we've been based in Beijing, and which has been a very good place to start and establish a beachhead for China. We'll keep an office there in China. We have had presences through different individuals in Tokyo and Seoul, and so those three markets continue to be very important to us. And by moving our headquarters here, it by no means that we're ignoring or somehow diminishing those markets. But yes, the location here, and with Singapore being effectively the business hub for Southeast Asia, as well as much of Asia Pacific, does give us the opportunity to do much more in this region as well.
Okay, and with your China Tough right now, it's been interesting because none of those guys have leaked anything out in Weibo or any of the Chinese communications.
You've trained them well.
Yes, you have. You have trained them very well. A lot of people there, they do see some of the stars that you've snapped up for that program. So there are some pretty big Chinese stars in that MMA stars in that program already. Do you think that this is going to signal more of an ability for UFC to get into mainland China, possibly next after Tough finally airs Macau?
Absolutely. This is the whole Ultimate Fighter China show is really groundbreaking in many ways. It gives us the chance to introduce our sport and the UFC as the global leader and everything, quality, etc., that the UFC stands for, through the show to just millions of fans that otherwise maybe weren't exposed to it. But by having it on their television set, and the show is nationally televised through Liaoning Satellite TV, they get a chance to watch. They get a chance to figure out, learn who these individuals are, get to know the fighters through the Ultimate Fighter show and format, and ultimately watching the finale in Macau. So Our plan now is do this for a couple of seasons, and we believe by first quarter, first half anyway of 2015, China will be chomping at the bit for a major UFC event, and that's the right time to come in with a big UFC fight in China. So stay tuned for that. We think a couple seasons of tough and the market will be very much primed.
Okay. So you're expanding into new markets over here in Asia this year. We're looking at maybe, 4, possibly 5 shows?
I think we're going for 5 or 6, possibly
okay.
even 7. Outside chance of even 7 in Asia this year.
Will
And
they all be Fight Night cards? Or get a numbered event out here?
There'll be UFC Fight Nights, and there'll be, but they'll all, I think, be very exciting cards with top contenders always in the main event, and that's our target for our Fight Night format.
So does this begin the aggressive expansion into Asia? Will 2015 bring even more than that?
Could bring a little more. Again, I think we're going to continue to expand and maintain our presence in all the markets that we're going to, and we'll be adding gradually with each year. For example, 2015, as I mentioned, we hope to add a big event in China to the mix in addition to all the ones that we're doing this year. And when I say China, I mean mainland China. Of course, Macau is already Chinese soil, and a great gateway to mainland, but now we're talking the real deal.
Do you think with Kung Lee being on Tough that we'll get to see him back over here fighting again?
I do think so eventually. Kung loves to come to Asia. He believes strongly that he is a spokesperson and a symbol of Asian power. And so I believe we'll see him out on a card here in the not too distant future. We hope anyway. We'll see him this weekend.
Excellent.
Yeah, you can ask him yourself.
You've lost Anderson Silva, likely, and GSP in the past couple of months. How does that fare for the UFC in 2014? Excuse me.
Well, it's a good question. I think it's better addressed to Dana. But look, we've got a huge amount of stars coming up through the ranks. I mean, 2013 was a banner year in terms of incredible fights, incredible increase, I think, almost in great fighters coming in. I mean, we've got the Strike Force guys integrating now. We've got a bunch of young guys that have been training MMA as opposed to some of the other martial arts coming onto the floor, and so the competition is getting more intense than ever. Of course, we hope to have both of those guys back, and whether that's in 2014 or 2015, it's anybody's guess. They're obviously wonderful ambassadors for the sport and great stars. But we do think that there's many other great fighters that are going to fill their shoes very soon.
And if there's one Asian fighter that we should look out for, who would that be in your mind?
Well, one of them is right here, Lim. I mean, this guy is just really shown incredible talent and strength in the octagon in his performances so far. I mean, he hasn't lost in years. Most of his fights in his career have been in first-round knockouts or TKOs. He's definitely one to look out for. I think we're going to see some guys coming out of our tough China that have a little more talent than maybe some people give them credit for, and they'll surprise some people. And I think that show, again, is going to spur more people coming into mixed martial arts and coming into the UFC from China. Certainly Japan has many great fighters that maybe because we didn't have spots, maybe because it wasn't convenient for them to take that leap and have to compete 10,000 miles away. They didn't join the UFC before, but we'll see guys like Kawajiri coming up from Japan and others like that from Korea as well. So there's a lot of pockets of talent out there.
Obviously here in Singapore we have Evolve, which is a great gym. But what do you think about the ecosystem for MMA talent in Asia so far?
It just keeps on building. Gyms are popping up all over. Somebody told me the other day that I think it was maybe 2 years ago, Indonesia, Jakarta had maybe only 15 or 20 MMA gyms, and today it's got 300. And I mean, I think that's just a small example of how the sport is just blossoming. We've got some gyms popping up, and if it's not a full-on MMA gym, it's a regular fitness gym that's adding mixed martial arts training to to their roster of offerings. So it's all kind of happening really steadily, and we're pretty soon, I think, going to experience a bit of a snowball effect. I mean, we hope that our events out here are helping to push that along, and a bit of a catalyst as well.
You have UFC gyms in the U.S. Any plans for that product out here?
We're in discussions with a few partners out here as we speak for UFC gyms, and we're happy to come out here whenever the situation merits. We're also happy to have other gyms pop up that are also training, teaching the sport, because it just grows the entire pie. Rising tide lifts all boats, and UFC is the biggest ship in this particular ocean. Thank you.
Good.